Hello. I hope you and yours are safe and healthy. Two or three quick things to start. First, it seems as though my email has been hacked. Some of you received an email pretending to be from me, asking you to respond by email, and then a subsequent fake email asks you for money. Please know that we at church will not do that. If anything ever seems suspicious, just pick up the phone and call us. I've changed my password, but we always need to be alert for scams. Second, we had a great blessing of the animals on Sunday. I got to bless 19 dogs and 3 cats. If you weren't there, check out Cheryl Huff's montage of that on Facebook. And third, our Can Do food drive and our Every Member Canvas are underway. Please open your hearts as we ask a lot of each other this time of year. We call upon each other to exercise the faith we've been given as we feed our hungry neighbors and as we put together a ministry budget for next year. That'll take a lot of faith, but we have that. Yes, in last Sunday's gospel, the disciples cry, "Increase our faith." When you hear these words, you think maybe they're just anxious by nature, right? Or maybe they share that American desire for the extra large, supersized, jumbo version of faith. Maybe they felt it was their duty to ask for more faith. But of course, the real reason for this cry was harder. Jesus had just asked them to do something they knew they could not do. They're willing to do what's reasonable and even exceptional to follow Jesus. But they know they can't do this or some of the other things Jesus has recently asked of them. So when they come to this brick wall, they want him to wave some magic wand. They want him to give them some superhuman powers to do what in their hearts they know can't be done. They want some blueprint, some clear manual that offers 7 steps for being a disciple. In short, they want to be transformed, but they don't really believe they can be. They've become so accustomed to seeing their world as it is that they cannot imagine the world as God wants it to be. They cannot imagine seeing the people who've wronged them as their brothers and sisters instead of villains. They're unable to do what Jesus has asked them to do. We're the same way. Then, of course, we spiral into guilt for not having the faith we think we're supposed to have. Well, let me reiterate what I said Sunday. The disciples have faith, and you have faith. Your faith may not look like the next person's, but it's there. Frederick Buechner writes, "Faith is better understood as a verb than as a noun, as a process rather than as a possession. It's on again, off again, rather than once and for all. Faith is not being sure where you're going, but going anyway. A journey without maps." Paul Tillich said that doubt isn't the opposite of faith. It's an element of faith. Now, you may not think you have very much faith, and that may be so. The journey takes all you've got, and what you've got is enough. Diane Corlett, the rector with whom I served in Raleigh, always said, "There's no such thing as excess faith. If we think we've got extra, it's not faith, but something else." We're always using our last ounce of faith, but that ounce is always there. And when we use that faith, it seems not to be depleted, but to grow. Jesus is calling for his disciples to see their reality in a new way. And doing that will require them to use the faith they've been given. Jesus answers their cry, but not in the way they expect. The disciples, like us, want a diagram for getting from point A to point B, but they don't get one. Right? Faith isn't a game plan for solving our problems, nor is faith understanding why things are the way they are. At the end of the day, faith isn't about answers. Faith is that mystery that lets us leap into the unknown, to leave home for the first time, to say, "I love you," not knowing if we'll hear it back. To leave the comfortable job for the one you know God's calling you to. Faith is that one last step we didn't think we had the strength to take. a journey without maps. Faith is about the love of God through Jesus Christ. Faith is about being grasped by Jesus so that you know in your heart and bones that your life and his life and the life of the world are mixed together. Once that happens, you see yourself and your neighbor and your world completely new. Once that happens, you know that the only thing that matters is that love and that the only reality is grace. Once that happens, you can forgive because you're a new creation, and therefore you see everyone else as a new creation. The hard truth is that we cannot earn this gift, nor can we achieve it. It's a gift, and all we have to do is open up a little, and God does the rest. We need faith the size of a mustard seed, and we have that. That is, through that small crack in our frozen hearts, we can act, and God can transform us. When we think about how we can change the world, we always despair. But let us remember it's not about us. It's about God working through us. Faith isn't so much in our heads or our hearts as in our hands and our feet, or in our being God's hands and feet in the world. Small action by small action we begin. Our little acts of faith may not be much, but they're essential. Perhaps we can only do a little, but is there anything God cannot do? Our task is to pray for faith and trust in the giver as we exercise the faith we've received. And the truth is, it doesn't take much. A word, a touch, a gesture can make our eyes see the world in a new way. It only takes faith the size of a mustard seed for God to transform us, and through us for God to transform the world. That mustard seed faith can provide food for our neighbors. It can deepen our financial commitment to God's work here. I ask us all to dig deep and call upon that faith within us all. See you soon.